Okay, so this is my Land Rover 119 with a 2.2 diesel engine, and I'm going to tackle changing out the timing chain. There's a real bad noise since I bought it, in fact, coming from the timing case, and I think there's something bad going on in there. When it's warm up, it sounds like shaking a tin box of bolts. I know it's not the pistons, because I've put new pistons in, I've put new big end bearings in, I've overhauled the top end, all the valves gear's good, and I'm pretty certain it's the timing chain. So that's what I'm going to tackle. It's also pumping out some white smoke, and I think that's an issue with the stretched or worn out timing chain. Now my 109, it's got a cherry picker on the back, and I can't get the whole thing in the garage, so I've kind of got enough of it in the garage that I can work on it out the weather. And let's see how we get on with it. So the first thing I want to do is isolate the battery. Got a battery isolator there, so that's isolated. I'm going to take off the front grille. Okay, that's off, that's easy enough. And there are two schools of thought now. One is to take off all this front bit, front valence and front radiator bulkhead, but I decided not to do that because I've got a whole bunch of wires going through from one side to the other, and the bolts are a little bit inaccessible and they're probably rusted. So what I've chosen to do instead, as you can see, I've taken the radiator off. That was quite easy as well. I did that last night, and with the radiator off, I've now got pretty good access to the timing cover through this big hole. I can get my head and shoulders in there, and I think that might be a better way of doing it. So the first thing I've got to do is, well, I've got to take the fan off, but before I take the fan off, I'm going to undo that starter dog bolt at the front there. It's going to be pretty tight, and to get that off I need an 1 5/8 imperial socket. 1 5/8. So let's see how we get on with that. Just pause it. Okay, so I've taken the fan and the pulley behind it, I've taken that off, and I've put the bolts back in the water pump boss so I don't lose them. Now I've got the 1 5/8 socket on there, and I'm going to give that a big bang with a hammer and see if that's enough to slacken it off. Okay, that wasn't quite as easy as I thought it would be, and in fact what I had to do is put the electric impact driver through the starter handle aperture in the front beam, got it onto the dog nut that way, and I managed to loosen it. Okay, so now we get a crowbar behind the pulley, and hopefully it's going to slide off. Yay, it is. Fantastic. Okay, so there's the front pulley. And I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a wear ring on it where the front oil seal, well, it's not too bad, that'll be okay, I can reuse that, but I need to change the oil seal before I refit it. Okay, so now I'm taking out I'm loosening anyway, not taking them out just yet, but I'm loosening all the bolts that hold the timing cover. You can see that these three that go through the water pump, you can see there's quite a bit of rust on there, and I had to use the electric wrench to loosen those. You got to be careful when you're using one of those wrenches, by the way, that you don't press the wrong trigger and you tighten it, because if you do that you're going to end up with a sheared bolt, and that's going to be a big problem to get out later. The water pump doesn't come off, by the way, so these smaller ones you don't have to loosen those. Leave the water pump as it is. I've slackened off the Jubilee clips on the bypass hose, got the pulley off, so I've just got a couple more to loosen, and there's 3 under the sump. That is the 3 bolts that hold the sump to the block right at the front of the engine. You've got to take those out as well. Okay, so that's the next step.